for people that might not be familiar, if you could start
Yeah.
by sharing what you do and who you are.
Well, I moved to Nashville in '93, and then about 6 months after that, I met Keith Urban, and like 2 weeks after I met him, I was in Australia with him for 6 months, and we
Wow.
just started doing a full band since then. So we did a trio called the Ranch all through the '90s. Toured like crazy in a van. It was rough going, but we're in our 20s, we didn't care. So, uh, got a
Was
record
that
deal.
before he was Keith Urban?
Oh, long, yeah, long
Yeah.
before.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So we put a record out. It sold like 6 copies or something like that. But
I
uh,
love that.
but we became like we had a pretty great reputation in Nashville because it was a trio. It was really high energy. It was just completely different from anything else that was out there.
Mm,
So a lot of people were really into us, and we play shows constantly. Just have big crowds. A lot of music business people. And
mm.
so after about 5 years, the band just wasn't going anywhere. So we split up. I joined the Dixie Chicks touring band.
Wow. Cool.
Uh, yeah, and so I did 3 tours with those
Playing
guys.
bass.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Because we had met them before they had their first single out, so we all became friends with them. So I did 3 tours with them, and then did some other stuff, like did a band with my brother, and then I played with the Counting Crows for a bit,
Wow. Oh my
uh,
gosh.
and then I came back and started touring with Keith again in '05. So I'm still with Keith right now.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
then
man.
you also do a lot of songwriting too, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's been great, man. Uh, Basically, probably around, I think around '05, '06, someone named Leanne Phelan had just called me out of nowhere and asked me if I'd ever consider, getting into writing country, and because I really didn't grow up listening to too much of it because I'm from a little town in West Virginia, which is a real country little town, but I grew up obsessed with Prince and Stevie
Mm.
Wonder.
Okay.
I mean, you can see I have, I've got this
Yeah.
picture of my wall back there, but uh, and so I'd been around country for a while because of Keith, and I learned a ton about it from him because he's a jukebox, walking jukebox of country music.
Mm.
That guy knows every song ever written. So I learned a lot about it from them, but I never really like tried to fully be a songwriter until she had contacted me, and man, it went great. Actually, I went a lot of years getting great cuts from Carrie Underwood and Keith and Lady A and people like that, but it was never getting the singles. I was really close so many times, and then finally I met Sam Hunt and got involved in his camp. This is before he had a record deal too, and then
Mm.
uh, um, had my first number one was with him, House
Wait,
Party.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
my wife's gonna freak out when I tell her that.
right.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's I didn't realize because I was like doing research on actually it's funny, man. Like I did a decent amount of research before we talked, and like there was a lot of stuff that I didn't see, like the Counting Crows or even Dixie
yeah,
Chicks and
right.
stuff. Like, but
Yeah,
like, and when I did see the Sam Hunt thing, I saw the most recent, which is it's
Kinfolks.
Kinsman Kinfolk. Yeah, okay,
Kinfolks. Yeah, we had a
yeah,
number
yeah.
one last year on that.
Yeah, so I was like,
Great.
oh, I didn't realize that it dated all the way back to that. I
Yeah,
mean,
so my first song I ever wrote with him was called "Raised on It," which was
yeah,
on
yeah,
that
of
same
course,
record too. That
yeah,
was
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of his first kind of single before he
yeah,
had a
yeah.
deal, so they just kind of put it out on.
Oh man, that's
On
my wife's gonna freak out, man. That's wild.
right. Yeah,
That's
so
wild.
yeah, and so he was my first like finally like I broke through, and after that, I've had 4 number 1s since that, and
Wow. Which were the other ones?
so one's a Billy Currington song called "Do I Make You Wanna,"
Okay.
and a Jason Aldean song called "A Little More Summertime."
Wow. Very
Did
cool,
Kin
man.
Folks for Sam, and I have a single out right now. It's Ryan Hurd and Maren Morris. It's called "Chasing After You." It's on the radio right now.
Dude,
Uh,
what a so that's a whole different industry that people don't even
oh
talk
yeah,
about. Like the right. Can we talk about that for a little? Like, can you
sure,
explain
yeah,
how it works and how to break into it for somebody? Because some people like they're great songwriters, they're great creators, but they
yeah,
might not like the spotlight. And I'm not saying you don't, but like I'm just saying that is another alternative that people don't even
yeah.
think about. You know what
I
I mean?
like it all, man.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm with
great.
you.
That's the
All right, I'll be in the spotlight. I'm with you
yeah.
there.
That's the great thing about touring with Keith is uh, his band is always like right beside him on stage, and so it's much more than just a singer band in the
That's
back.
cool.
So we
That's
get to
cool.
share that spotlight with him, and so I get to get that side of me out. But
Yeah.
then when I'm home, basically in Nashville, we write like a job. We start every day at 11 o'clock, and we usually finish around 3 or 4, and it's just like a regular gig. You go
Yeah.
to, and so my publisher, I signed with a company called 12/6 recently. They're a new company. They're just awesome, but they set up my calendar, and I just look at my calendar every week and see who I'm writing with that week, and I just show
Wow.
up, and yeah, it's different every single time. So uh, it's a it's a it's a fun business, but it's a hard business too. It's
Sure.
much harder than being a musician, I think, because when you're a musician, you have a touring musician, you have that instant gratification from the crowd, that buzz from the
Interesting.
crowd. But as a songwriter, you write songs, pitch, 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 and then hopefully something happens. And even if someone records it, it could be a year before you hear it. But
That's actually fascinating because I've heard a lot of bands talk about like, oh, we test out songs in the crowd, and
right,
right then and there if it's worth either recording or releasing,
sure,
and
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
fascinating. You don't get to do that, yeah.
No, no. So I mean, like that Ryan Hurd, Maren Morris single that's out right now. I wrote it 7 years ago, and it just
Wow.
now came out. And that usually doesn't happen, but it's
Sure.
crazy that like the song could stick around that long and then find life again.
Yeah, 100%. I was just talking about that with another guy recently. It's like you never know when a song is gonna pop off and when it's gonna
Mhm.
be when people are gonna relate to it, when all this stuff. It's like
Oh,
as you write, you build this like treasure chest that's hey someday you can pull out of that treasure chest
yeah,
and you find what you're looking for. But
yeah. You just never know. So
exactly.
it's a cool industry. I mean, I really like it. It's this year because we've been off tour, I've done it every day. 5 days a week and doing my
Yeah.
other job, and I'm producing also. But uh,
Cool.
yeah, but it's going well though. It's a great business if you can just stick with it because it usually takes a long time. It's
That
almost
is
like
so
the
important.
industry here, just like after so many years, just said, screw it, just let him have one.
I
So, if you can just put in the time, then you can, it's, you,
agree with that. I'm so curious to know how many musicians didn't make it because they just didn't have, they weren't able to, whatever circumstance, whether it be they gave up or whether, like some people that were privileged enough, like myself, and I assume you too, we had the privilege of being able to stick it out. Some people,
oh
based
yeah,
on circumstances, can't. They just can't
sure.
financially stick it out, and I completely agree with that. How do you with that songwriting? How much of it is split between actually songwriting with the artist and just like writing yourself with a group of people and then pitching it to artists?
I mean, back, even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even, you had much more of a chance of just pitching songs, just outside songs. Um, because like all the biggest artists in country still do that. The older school cats like Keith, and I mean, they come not they're because they're not old, but they just come from that different generation of where they don't care if someone else wrote the song because
That's interesting.
yeah, because the people at the concerts, they don't know who wrote the songs anyway, and
I
so
never care.
yeah, so people like Keith and Kenny Chesney and Tim McGraw, Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan, they're still really open to it, and so they get the best songs, the absolute best songs, and that translates into ticket sales for those guys.
Hmm.
Uh, but the newer generation of artists, and I'm not sure if it's because of the deals everyone's signing, more of those kind of 360 deals where the labels are kind of
Yeah.
encompassing
Yeah.
getting publishing and touring. They seem to really want to write everything. So it's really difficult right now to get an outside cut that you didn't write.
Do you prefer working with artists though, or do you prefer the outside cuts?
I mean, it's to be honest, it's different all the time because there's someone like Sam Hunt is a true songwriter. Like the
Yeah.
guy is
Yeah.
freakishly good, man.
Yeah. You could tell in his songs. It's
Oh
unbelievable.
God. And he takes so much time too. That's another thing
Oh,
that's
really?
oh yeah, yeah. Like months on a song. Like I remember on House Party, I think we got together 6 or 7 times before it was finished over a 6 month period. Same thing with Ken Folks and but he does that with every song because he just wants every word perfect. And so like on Ken Folks, it was going to radio, and so I had the version I had literally like a week before it went to radio. The second verse was completely different. He had gone back in the day before it was shipped and rewrote a whole second verse. So when I heard it on the radio for the first time, that was the first time I heard that verse. So guys like that are different. You know, they just have they're true songwriters. But you know, there's
Sure.
some artists that just aren't that. They're
So
just
he's
great
one that
singers.
you actually go and sit with and write with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just went to Florida with him in March, where we he rented out a house, and I went there with his producer Zach Crow, and so every time with him, you start about 7 or 8 songs a day, uh, and you do it quick.
Wow.
You know, I'll come up with a riff. You know, Zach will start doing something with the beats, and then Sam will just riff quickly, and then get an idea, get a chorus, then he goes, "All right, next," and then we'll go to another song. Just it's like that all day, every day you write with him.
Do you
Absolutely.
write with Keith often?
No. Well, I haven't even seen him this year. I've only seen him twice this whole year because he's been in Australia. But it's
Does
weird.
he
Like,
live? He lives there.
no, he lives here, but he went there because his wife was shooting a movie, and then COVID didn't exist there, basically.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
they stamped it out so early. So they've lived life down there like it doesn't even exist, no mask, anything, all this time. And so he's been down there the whole time. Actually, he's back in Nashville now, uh, and hopefully we'll start playing some shows soon. But no, it's weird. Like he's cut some stuff I've written, and I've written with him. Um, and there's a song that he's got that he wants to put on his next record that I wrote, but I didn't write it with him because we actually do kind of the same thing. We're more melody and riff guys, and
Mm.
so
Hmm.
you know we need that great country lyricist in the room, you know,
Sure, sure.
because we can both write lyrics, but that's not like our main thing. Our main thing is the groove and the melodies and everything, you know. And so
Yeah.
when we get together and write, it's basically we're just writing, you know,